Raise your hand if you're a nuanced, complex human being whose mind goes completely blank when someone looks you in the eye and asks you the question, tell me about yourself. It should be easy to talk about yourself, right? I mean, after all, you're busy hanging out with you all day long. Except the problem is it's not so easy to talk about yourself. How do you summarize all that you are, all that you have to offer in your career into one short paragraph? I'm AshleyStahl, and I'm many things: a TEDx speaker, a Forbes columnist, a career expert, and most importantly, the best-selling author of the book to help you get clarity on your best career fit called U-Turn. Get unstuck, discover your direction, design your dream career. I'm also the host of the U-Turn podcast, my show to help you elevate your confidence in work and love. Every single day, I am here to help you create a career that lights you up. So first things first, when it comes to your elevator pitch, you need to notice when someone is even asking you about yourself, because an invitation into your elevator pitch doesn't always sound like, tell me about yourself. It could sound like, what got you interested in this job? Or why are you making a career change? All of these questions lend themselves to some version of tell me about yourself. And while I know it could feel a little cringe to talk about and even practice your answer in advance, there's something really intentional about preparing to answer this question. Instead of letting the conversation happen to you, you are steering the conversation on your terms. You know what I mean? So here is my 4-step formula to write the perfect elevator pitch for your job interviews. Number 1 is your story. Number 2 is your cuff. Number 3 is your skill. And number 4 is your goal. So first, let's start off with your story. While it's tempting to respond to tell me about yourself with a big recap about your resume, you don't want to do that. What the question is really asking for is a snapshot of your story, a story that shows how human you are, and one that can somehow tie your current career interest to who you've always been as a person. So how do you effectively tell a story when you answer this question? Option number 1 is your childhood. Take a look at your career interests right now. What skills do you need to be using to thrive in your ideal job? What interests do you have in your life, like film or politics or fashion, that clearly align with your current career path? From there, think back to who you were as a kid and how those skills or those interests showed up for you. If you work in politics now, were you interested in politics as a kid? Or maybe you were just super persuasive and really good with words. It's on you to draw these links as a way to tell a compelling and cohesive story to the recruiter. This could sound like, I grew up with a love for collecting bugs and rocks and was always captivated by nature. So it's no surprise that now, by the time I got to college, I majored in geology and I'm sitting with you here exploring this work in archaeology. This is an engaging, memorable, authentic conversation. It enrolls the person you're speaking with into a life mission and a deeper sense of purpose or connection you've had to this work throughout your whole life, which is so much more inspiring for them to be a part of, versus just feeling like they're helping you tack that next job onto your LinkedIn profile. Remember, a recruiter is a human. Your resume may have gotten you the job interview, but your heart and soul is what's going to make you memorable. Or maybe you don't really feel like you have anything from your childhood that ties into the career that you're pursuing now. No problem. That just means you need to consider the defining moment approach. If you can't find any childhood roots in your career, you can opt to share a defining moment in your life, one that solidified your interest in your current career path as you approach for telling a story. This is when you pick a turning point in your life, a moment that clarified the career interest you have and made the choice to be on the career path you're pursuing now. So before being a career coach, I, believe it or not, worked in counterterrorism at the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. So when people ask me why I chose to be a career coach, I didn't really have an old childhood story to tell them. It wasn't like I came out of the womb working in national security. It was about my childhood, being surrounded by family members who were interested in politics. That led me to have an elevator pitch and a story about being a child who was fascinated by the government and world affairs. But my next choice to be a career coach, that didn't come from my childhood. That came from a defining moment. The story in my elevator pitch about a defining moment that sent me into career coaching, it sounded a little more like, back when I was working in counterterrorism, there were so many moments where I noticed that I was the only woman in the room. I always had a knack for networking, and this experience of seeing firsthand how many women are not sitting at the table is eventually what sparked my career coaching business. So which template makes more sense for you? Is it the childhood anecdote or the defining moment? After you get clear on your story statement, you need to share what I like to call your cuff. Your cuff is there to do one of two things. Either it will be a humble brag that strengthens your application if you feel like your application is straightforward and there aren't really any red flags that the recruiter is going to see, or it's going to a place that you make an explanation for where you address a weakness or maybe a concern on your application. So let's say you've left the workforce and you think that gap on your resume is a red flag for a recruiter. Your cuff could sound like, I left the workforce for a year due to a health issue, and I'm so glad I'm now completely healthy again and able to fully focus on my career. It's called a cuff because it's in and it's out and it's quick. After all, there is a really fine line between addressing an insecurity and shining a mega spotlight on a weakness. Know that recruiters aren't going to ask you about the red flags they see on your resume. It's your job to address them. But you don't want to go on and talk about these weak areas for you, hence it's called a cuff. Move in and move out of the topic. On the flip side, if you don't have anything to explain for yourself, it's powerful to share something you're really proud of, ideally as it relates to the job. So in my case with the Pentagon, my cuff or my humble brag was, I'm so grateful to be fluent in French as I know the language is so helpful for an intelligence career. You see how I shared something I'm proud of, and bonus points if what you share is relevant to your job. It doesn't have to be. Maybe you went to Harvard, maybe you were student body president, maybe you were prom queen, or maybe you won best eater in college like I did. Actually, don't share that. Then the third step of your elevator pitch, once your story statement and your cuff statement are clear, is your skill. This is the one skill you know the recruiter or hiring manager wants you to have, spoken in testimonial form. So it could sound like, my boss at my internship always commented on my ability to notice patterns in data, and that's something I'm really excited to bring into this intelligence analysis role. Ideally, you're sharing a skill you know they need and one you've been complimented on, ideally by a boss. But if you never got kind words from a boss about the skill you want to share, ask yourself, has a colleague or a professor or a friend commented on it? Obviously, it's always stronger to say, someone thinks I'm awesome for this reason versus I'm awesome. And finally, once you have your story, your cuff, and your skill statement clear, you just need your goal statement. So if you're interviewing for a job and your goal is to obviously get the job, your statement should be focused on why that company is perfect for you. You could say something like, I'm particularly excited about working here because, and talk about their client roster, or the press that they've been getting that you've really admired, or their mission, or their leadership at the company that really inspires you. Anything that marries you to that specific company. So, tell me about yourself. Let me know your elevator pitch in the comments. I'm going to try and take a look and randomly edit some of them. And please share this episode or give me a thumbs up if you found it helpful. And for more guidance on unlocking who you truly are in your career or landing a new job you love, subscribe to my channel below, or better yet, take my free career clarity quiz at AshleyStahl.com/clarity quiz, and I'll see you back here soon.